conspire with me for a moment in the notion that all men, all people, are created equal. Not simply the high ideal read in courtrooms or carved into stone and statues, or even the fine words penned by the founding fathers of my own homeland, who declared the truth to be self-evident while at once returning home to their farms, worked by slaves and the pillaging of Native Americans. Consider the real idea that all men are actually created, that all people are actually created equal. Not that we will all become equal. Not that the burglar is as fine a man as the defender of the innocent. But that we all, with the same rights and responsibilities, are born into this world. Is that true? Do we believe, as people, the radical notion that all people are created equal? If the answer is no, then maybe you should stop watching this conversation now. But if the answer is yes, it begs the question what that means. And that's what I'm asking us all to think about today, in the midst of all the hyperbole, the propaganda, the governments, the factions, and the fear-mongering that says that our neighbor next door is coming to destroy us. Are all people created equal? Does color matter? Does government have the authority to define our numbers and our papers, to give us permission to work, to eat, to live, to feed our families? If government has that right, then are all men created equal? Or, as some attested, the right of kings is above that? Does the king, the politician, the ruler, born into the throne, granted it by divine right, or simply taken it by power, is his right, is his authority above yours, and so above your neighbors? That is theory number one of government, if government should exist at all. The second theory is that the government is simply an extension of the people's authority. A republic, a democracy, or whatever form it takes, but an extension of the authority, the rights to life, liberty, and property that are vested equally in all people. This will be considered the modern concept of the civil government, if indeed we can call society civil, government civil. But if all are created equal and all rights derive from that life, liberty, and property, and the authority of a protector, a hired employee, a government, if you will, is to defend those rights, then does not the government only have the authority that the individual has? If the concept is true that all are created equal, if you are equal to your neighbor, do you have the right to go demand that he answer to you, that he get a permission slip from you to work because you have been working longer? Do you have the right to go take fingerprints, document, register, and record his or her location on the piece of the planet in which you reside? Are all men created equal, or do we all have some of the divine right of kings, the king being an authority over you, and by extension, because you were born closer to the king, you having authority over those who came from further away to live under the rule of the king? Is law, as we say, follow the law, is the law the whim of the king or even the legislator? Or is the law only the foundation of people's rights, life, liberty, and property, and the protection of those? Can law be without that? Can there be a crime when no victim and no accuser is present? The traveler is called an invader. The person who wants to work is required to get permission to work for their very survival of their families from government. And we say the law says they must have permission. I follow the law, therefore, the person from farther away must submit to the even more egregious law. If we believe that all people are created equal, then how can it be that we have the right to travel unmolested, that we have the right to due process, that we have the right to be innocent until proven guilty? How can it be that we believe in the concept that all are created equal, and yet someone who the government, a faction, generally speaking, the most violent and corrupt faction in any nation at any time in history, told us that the person from afar is to be feared, and therefore their rights are not equal, and they must be subjugated to different rules than us? Is it okay for you to be documented, frisked, searched, fingerprinted, and detained at any random time or place to ensure, for the protection of all, that you are not a terrorist? Is it okay for your 5-year-old boy or girl to be subjected to the same? Answer this question. Is it okay for you to be stopped and groped and searched and detained on your way to work? Must you ask permission from government, from those who have the force and the guns and who are tasked or delegated to protect us? Must you submit to them in all things? Is that the law? Or do your rights come first? If the answer is that your rights come first, then does the immigrant, the traveler, the foreigner, the person of a different color or a different place, or a more suspicious and sinister nature to your eyes, perhaps, should they be subjected without having harmed a person or property? Should they be subjected to the search, the groping, the seizure, the detainment? Should their little boy or little girl be subjected to the same? Setting aside for a moment all the political and faction-based arguments, the argument that says they come to steal our social programs, when if you believe that the right of the people is inherent, you must ask, does the government have a right to steal and redistribute your wealth in the first place by force? And if so, and if all are created equal, then why do your sons and daughters have more a right to that plunder than the foreigner? If that's the case, and that's wrong, then the problem is not the social programs, it's that society has allowed the government to create those in the first place, rather than us simply loving and helping our neighbors under the concept that all people are created equal. The fears of invasion, when invasion is already a defined word, and an invader cannot be a person coming in peacefully to live and work. An invader is someone who has come to plunder. So by the definition, in fact, most governments are the invaders. An invader is not defined by whether they came from afar, but by their actions. And so if it is not the social programs, and it is not the invasion, and it is not the color, the look, the language, the simple question is, do you believe that all people are created equal? And if the answer is yes, then perhaps we should proceed with the very radical, earth-shattering notion that we should indeed love and defend the rights of all equally, and treat our neighbors as equal outside the boundaries of government-created lines and rules and regulations. Not that we cannot have an identity, a sovereignty, even a border. Not that we cannot have a place that we call our own united place, but that truly, outside the hyperbole and the fine speeches and the carvings on stone, truly carry the belief in our hearts and minds that all are created equal. I wonder what kind of a world that would make.